Rootless Coffee Co. is a small batch roaster out of Flint, Michigan, making high end coffee with bags designed by some of the comic industry's rising stars. Collaborating with artists, bands, brands, nonprofits, wrestlers, comedians, and more, Rootless is the punk rock gateway to craft coffee. Easy to understand and delicious roast options. Listeners get 20% off their order by using the code HARDTIMES. All capital letters, no spaces, hard times. At checkout when they visit rootlesscoffee.com. Any size, any grind, anytime. Break free from boring. Rootlesscoffee.com.
Live from our newsroom, it's the Hard Times Podcast. With Bill Conway and Matt Sankum.
Tim, welcome to the Hard Times Podcast. How's it going?
So far, so good. Thanks for having me.
I noticed you got a Discord shirt on.
I do. Yeah.
Three straight edgers here on this podcast, so none of this bullshit.
Oh.
Yeah. Three adult straight edge people. I mean,
Who wants to tell a wild story?
Yeah, I went to bed at 9:15 last night.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's not often that I meet an adult straight edger. That's for sure. Or it's actually more often in my role. Like I play in a band with two of them, so that's who I spend most of my time with, and so it sometimes feels more normal. And then when I do something outside of the band, I'm like, oh yeah, we're just sort of freaks.
I got invited to a cabin in Tahoe this weekend, right? And the guy says, come on up. We'll make a weekend out of it. I say, sure. Sounds good. I'll see you there, right? And then a couple hours later, I get a text. You got any Molly? I'm like, no, I don't have any fucking Molly. And then I said, dude, I'm straight edge. And he goes, I thought that just meant you don't drink.
Oh, we need to start that version of straight edge too. And now that he mentions it, that needs to exist. The one only hard drugs,
Ian Mackay all up on Molly. Just that was what it was all about, man. Don't drink, don't smoke.
I'm
don't
already
fuck.
imagining
Ton of Molly.
I'm imagining the bands that would spawn from that that branch of straight edge.
So I'm turning 30. All of my straight edge friends are no longer straight edge. I still like it, I'm still into it. I still think it's the way to go. First, when I was straight edge, it was like we were part of a straight edge scene. We went to shows, What do you think about aging into a straight edge lifestyle? Because I have to be honest, sometimes I look around at other straight edgers who are getting 30, 40, 50. I'm like, some of these people they're kind of fucking weird. They're a little screwy.
Yeah, there needs to be like a research paper done on people who end up in straight edge, because as you guys know, like you get a whole wide variety of people who do it for different reasons, and some of us are screwballs, and like find our way into this thing because we're maybe like attracted to extremes. You know what I mean? Anybody attracted to extremes, like they're just gonna find the next extreme thing, right? Like
it was either this or ISIS.
Well, yeah, there's places people go, and like that's what you've met, those people that are just so zealous about this thing, and they were in it for like 18 months and then they were gone, run on to the next thing. You meet people who got into it because maybe they have some family trauma, you know what I mean? And so like drinking, they relate drinking to something really dark in their history. I will tell you, like you guys are just turning 30. If you wait till 40, all your friends become sober.
I'm 37.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so I've got the sober friends. I got a lot of sober friends that are now like, hey, you want to hang out now that we both don't drink? I'm like, yeah, sure, man.
Totally, cool. Yeah. It comes full circle. Like pretty soon you end up in the same room with like all the old punk bands that have now gone through their drinking phases and are now sober, and they're looking for someone to hang out with because they don't drink. And so if you wait long enough, everyone comes back to not drinking anyway.
Yeah, those are my favorite types of straight edgers, is the guy at work who's at the work party with the bucket of beer, who's fucking like scratching his neck, having like a panic attack because there's a bucket of beer and he doesn't know what to do. So he hangs out with you because he hears that you don't drink. And he's like, I think I'm straight edge too. Yeah, whatever.
Or you have people who like, they get sober and then, which is a good thing for them. And then they come to you Like, cool, what do we do now?
Exactly. Yeah.
I haven't been like secretly living this like incredibly amazing life minus alcohol. Like it's like I have like this door to like Willy Wonka's world. Like, oh, well, come with me now that you're sober. Like, let's go see
Yeah.
all this stuff. It's like, no, I do
There,
a lot of the same things, a lot of the same experiences. I just, can wake up tomorrow morning for the most part.
they also want to hang out really intensely, really rapidly. Like, what are you doing in like 2 hours? Because I'm trying to hang out with more people who don't drink. And then it's like next day. Hey man, let's hang out. Hey, let's hang out. It's like, dude, oh come on. I gotta go to work. I can't just be hanging out with people who are trying to get off booze.
Oh, I'm glad that you guys have some of these problems too.
I've been doing stand up for about 10 years, and there's a lot of stand up comedy shows that people book for like sober groups and so the people that are booked are all like sober comedians, and I'll get asked to do these shows like, hey Bill, you're sober, would you do this show? And it's like, well, technically yes, I am sober, but I am not like in sober in that way. I'm straight edge, so I don't drink. So I don't know if I actually have the going there to this group of people who might laugh at related, like, oh yeah, remember getting blackout drunk? It's like, I'm just gonna go and be like, oh, you guys couldn't handle your booze, huh? Or something like that. Like, I'd be insensitive to them. It would not. I'm not the right fit, the straight edge comedian on a sober show, because I don't have that recovery aspect of it. Matt and I both have never had a sip of alcohol. We're just we're really on the far end of straight edge.
Yeah, the non-drinking world is definitely like, I feel like as many ways as you could possibly end up here, those are the stories you hear. Like everyone has some different version or story or motivation. It's not all the same. Like for some people it's moral, for some people it's political, for some people it's, like they had a problem with it. For some people it's, their family or their friends or something really kind of like shocked them out of it. And so yeah, like if nothing else, I feel like there's the variety of it all. You will meet interesting people who have made this
uh,
decision in their life, and for some people it's more active and some people it's more passive, like, so it's all over the spectrum.
my preferred form of straight edger, I think I might fall into this category a little bit, is the family trauma person who doesn't know that it's family trauma yet. Where they go, oh yeah, yeah, I just don't drink, I just don't drink, and then someone goes, okay, cool, yeah, what does your mom do for a living? And you're like, well, my mom killed my dad in a drunken rage, and she's in jail now. You're like, okay, I think those two things might be connected.
That's good.
I think it was Bill was asking me like, because when I was like 14, 15, I would just be like, oh yeah, no, I just don't like to drink. I just don't like to drink. And then I got older and I started realizing, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I had a reason to react to some of those things.
Yeah, I'm trying to break a cycle here. Maybe
You
that's
know,
it.
another thing that happened to me. I don't know if this is something similar that's ever happened to either of you. Is I was dating a woman once, and her stepdad saw a picture of me on Instagram with like X's on my hands, and I think I was like on stage or something like that. And it was like an action sort of picture. But then he looked up straight edge, and he thought it was like an extremist movement, which I guess it kind of is, right? But he was so concerned about it, he didn't want me around this woman I was dating, little sister, because he thought I would like get her into this extremist movement of straight edge. She thought it was like a terrorist group. It's probably the most cool I've ever felt being straight edge.
Yeah, straight edge definitely, like, especially for people outside of like a punk and hardcore scene. Like if you're inside a punk and hardcore scene, then we've created this thing called straight edge. We've like put it in a box, we've given it a label, and it helped people understand it, right? And so when you say you're straight edge to somebody in the punk and hardcore scene, they already have this idea of like, okay, right, he likes Youth of Today or Earth Crisis, or that's his thing. And then but outside of our scene, it really is like a hard drive crashing thing to tell somebody. Like they're just like, wait, what? Like I'll meet neighbors who have nothing to do with like any sort of scene, and kind of like your buddy who wanted you to go, out to Tahoe and bring some Molly. Like it's like I'll at some point it'll come up. It's like, well, I don't drink, and it's like, oh, okay, and well, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. Well, let's go barbecue, and it's like, well, I don't eat meat either. And the father just like, wait, what religion is this? Like, what? Can you just tell me what we're talking about here? Like, Is this Jehovah's Witness? I'm not familiar with all these things.
So growing up, that was all my friends were getting into straight edge, and some of them were getting into vegetarianism and veganism. And Bill went down that road as well, and I didn't. And one of the main things in the early part of my life, I was like, it would be like the last thing. It's like the last thing I have with people. I say, "Hey, you want to go get a burger?" It's the only thing I have when people say, "Do you want to go get a beer?" I'm like, "No, let's go get burritos." And they say, "Okay, fine." Now it's a little bit easier, but for I can totally understand that vibe though, because that is kind of like the final. That's like you don't drink, you don't smoke. People kind of like they're a little sensitive. They're like, okay, maybe he's got some sort of trauma. If you're like, and I also don't eat meat. They're like, this person has rejected society. This person is an outcast.
He looks so normal. What could possibly be wrong with him? Yeah. I had some friends over for dinner, and I had to be like, it's gonna be a militantly vegan dinner, by the way. Like, fair warning. Like, I hope you can understand that it's going to be vegan. They're like, oh no, that's okay. Like, we went vegetarian over the pandemic. Like, okay, thank God.
What's a militantly vegan dinner? Do you hand out a pamphlet before you give them like the salad?
Yeah, we watched a 20-minute video on factory farming before we ate, and then we were able to. Then we discussed that, and then we were able to eat.
But I think you guys bring up a good
uh,
point too. It's like there are people that when you tell everything that what your choices to them, that makes them uncomfortable. But if you found yourself in like punk and hardcore, you you don't really give a shit about making people feel uncomfortable that much. You know what I mean? It doesn't bother you that much, or you're not trying to be included in some circle as desperately. You know what I mean? Because like you said, Matt, like
I hear
there are American experiences that like connect us all, and they are like meat and drinking and sports and whatever else. That's like our how we bond. Especially in like the male world too. Like that's how you
you.
connect with somebody that you don't know. And so when you reject all those things, like you become a bit of like an oddity and a bit of like, well, what is this guy's deal? And then if you're like if you're a punk and hardcore kid, you kind of like it when the question mark appears over the person's head. You know what I mean? You're kind of like, yeah, yeah, like that's what I'm here for. I'm like, I enjoy being a thorn in the side of the establishment, and I enjoy confusing you.
A thorn in the side of the establishment and side of the barbecue. Um,
Right.
I'm curious. I believe you came up and you went to a lot of shows at a place. I think was it called Fireside Bowl, a bowling alley that had shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me about just on the same topic here. Like, when did you find straight edge? What was that scene that you came up in like, and how accepting of straight edge was it? The scene that I came up in a street punk scene, and straight edge was very weird for my group of friends, at least at first. But what was your experience growing up in the scene like? Tell me about the early days.
Early days would have been like, I guess like early to mid '90s Chicago hardcore and punk. So this was like everything from like Los Crudos to Cap and Jazz. I think that was like happening in
Hmm.
Chicago. So kind of like crusty hardcore, and then we were Midwest emo happening in the mid '90s. So like we were Cap and Jazz and Braid and Gauge and then obviously you had a lot of like the pop punk and like Fat Record type stuff happening around that time as well. And I was just kind of like right in the middle of all of it, just like I loved all of it. I loved Captain Jazz, I loved Los Crudos, but I still loved going to see like Face to Face when they came to town or whatever. Um, and then I was always just one of the kids who didn't drink before I even knew or what straight edge was. It was just sort of like, oh, that's
Hmm.
Tim.
Hmm.
He doesn't drink. Like he doesn't want to smoke. That's just his thing. And then somebody told me what straight edge was, and I was thinking, at first I thought it was kind of like a ridiculous idea. Like I wasn't interested in drinking, but I thought, well, why would we name this something? Like, why would we call this something? Like, I don't understand that. And then we sing songs about it. Like, I don't get that either. Like, honestly, it hit me that way. Like, as I got older and as you experience the world as someone who has opted out, you realize like your experience is different. People treat you different. They demand answers from you. They're like we said, like we all said, they're a little confused by you. They're dismissive of your decision. It's like, well, like the most offensive thing you can tell like a gay person. It's like you just haven't met the right woman or whatever. You know what I mean, or vice versa. And it was like that was the offensive thing you would tell a straight edge person. It's like, oh, you just haven't, you haven't like gotten real high, or you haven't, partied with me and my friends. And so all of a sudden, the idea that somebody eventually started writing songs about this or creating a scene, or somebody like, Ian MacKaye and Minor Threat actually was like, fuck it, we're going to write a song like explicitly saying what we do so we can let you know this isn't like a passive thing we're doing, it's an active thing that we're doing. And then it all made more sense to me, like why you would a scene would have been created, why a community of straight edge people would have been created, and then how like music would have grown out of that. And that's when I started finding bands like I guess Earth Crisis, was one of the like, they were definitely for me in like 96, 97, they were like the flagship straight edge band, when I was going to their shows, and certainly they're being laced with like animal rights and all of that um was really attractive to me at the same time. And I got really into all of that. And then I just loved their whole presentation. It was a lot more like I feel like veganism and that kind of thing was represented often by like the hippie community prior to that, and like now it was being represented as far more like tough militant way, and it was more about like burning down slaughterhouses than like levitating the Pentagon, and all of that was like, fuck yeah, like I want this. I want songs about like burning this shit down, and so I fell in love with all of that, and that became like my community and my scene, and just following bands like Earth Crisis and Snapcase and Refuse, all these bands from like the hardcore scene uh back then. But at the same time, I never like left any other scene in Chicago. I still loved going to see, whether it was, I don't know, like um going to see Jets to Brazil, going to see like Fugazi shows, going to see all the shows in Chicago that were happening. Like I loved all of it. The whole Discord scene, which obviously post Minor Threat was never straight edge again. You know what I mean? So like all of those bands, I was a big into like Kerosene 454 and Hoover and all that stuff. So I loved all the music, but straight edge just always became like I don't know, just like this somewhere like this anchor for me. And but throughout my whole life, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys, the majority of my friends have always been non-straight edge. Like it's just like it's always that's just the way the world works. And so I was never like in some like really sealed off echo chamber, you know, and so it was like it became a part of me. Exactly, yeah, yeah, and that's kind of I think that's important, because you realize that you don't like your relationship with um a drinking culture has nothing to do with like people. You know what I mean? Like I love those people. I love my friends. You know what I mean? Like I and their decision to drink versus my decision not to drink does not draw a line in the sand between us. Like mine's more like, yo, this is the best thing for me. Like this is the way I want to experience the world.
I'm still full blown slap shot chant kill anyone with a drink in their hand. Like I live that 24/7. I'm in the office. Someone invites me to the office party, and the
Right.
manager has a beer. I just fucking go for it,
Yeah,
man.
Matt's
Totally.
heading to Taco with a hockey stick in his hand, and he's just going to start smacking people around with it.
Right. Yep. Just pounding like the Firestorm drum beat over and over.
You had mentioned something about uh, early on, like friends being like, "Oh, that's Tim. He doesn't drink." And I had so I grew up in suburban Massachusetts, like deep in the woods, like right before heroin ravaged everything. But I still had a lot of degenerate friends that would steal Robitussin from the supermarket and drink that and get super high while we skateboarded. And those friends, when like another like ancillary friend would come in and be like, "Hey, Bill, why aren't you drinking?" Those friends would be like, "He doesn't drink, okay? Leave him alone," and be like, so I never had to like. I had these drugged out friends that were so protective of my not drinking. I was like, "All right, thanks, guys," and it was just like, and they were the tough kids in around town. So I was like, I never had an issue ever of people being like, "Oh, why? It's weird that you don't drink," because these friends would be like, "He doesn't fucking drink, man. Get off of his back." I'm like, yeah, cool, guys. I appreciate that. And that like happened in so many different areas in my life. Like people just being like, "Get off of his back, man." It's like, all right, cool. Being straight edge is weird sometimes.
You had like enforcers, like bodyguards around you.
Yeah, I had goons, man. I had like straight up goons.
I like it.
So, you've been all around, touring around, and then you're stuck in your home for a long period of time. If you could go back to one place, and not just the scene, not just the crowd, but also like the food, wherever, the environment. Let's say this weekend, where would you go? Like, what's like a spot like when you guys have been on tour where you went and you found some food or something, or some weird niche spot where you would like to go back to?
That is an excellent question. Where would I go back to? I mean, like the easy answer, the thing that honestly that I crave the most when I travel is I crave Chicago and I crave home. I'll be honest. Like I crave like the food
Mm-hmm.
and the people and the music. But because that's such an easy answer, I'll give you like somewhere else though. Like we spent a lot of time in Europe, and I'm gonna say Copenhagen, mostly because like I ride my bike a lot on tour. It's kind of like that's like my zen. That's like my meditative state is like because touring is like just like living in a bus in a dressing room and tightly packed in with like a lot of people, and so like you get out on your bike and you kind of get to see, oh, I'm here. Like this place is cool. Oh, you get to see like outside the four walls that you're stuck in. And Copenhagen's got some amazing bike trails, amazing people, amazing food, amazing history. Um, there's more and more places as you travel around the world that get like I don't know what the word would be. I guess for lack of a better word, like Americanized. You know what I mean? Like wherever you go, there's
Mm-hmm.
a Starbucks and a McDonald's on the corner. You know, and so like the personality of the place starts to get erased. But there are still places left that don't have that. I think of Copenhagen as one of those places. I don't know. That's where I'm gonna go with. That's my gut instinct.
I obviously have not done as extensive touring as you have, but when I was doing more touring, I started just saying, yeah, everywhere's the same, man. It's all the same. You know, it's like there's just a Starbucks and a gas station, and that's it. You could just drive for like 12 hours and then end up in a new spot and be like, yep, just pretty much the same as the last one.
I mean, it's so true. I feel like so like if you go see a movie, people who go see movies, you know, they go for two different reasons. Some people go to have the same experience that they had before, that they would like to recreate that experience because they had a positive experience, or you might go see something that like will give you a new experience, and so like you venture out into something like an indie film or a film that doesn't have a clear happy ending, or it's like a little darker or whatever it might be, you know, and that's what ticks your box, right? Is that like, oh, I like that film made me feel something that I've never felt before, you know, and whatever side of that, you know, of that line of thinking you're on is totally valid in my opinion. And I feel like with travel is the same way. You can go almost anywhere and like recreate the most comfortable experience for yourself. Like you can stay at the Hilton in any major city you want to. You can go to the Starbucks in any major city you want to. You can go eat at Panera, you know what I mean, or whatever it is, you know what I mean, like in any major city you want to. You can, just because you've gotten on that plane and flown thousands of miles, you can, it doesn't mean you're going to experience different things. You're going to have to try to experience different things. You're going to have to break outside of like that city center. You got to make
Mm-hmm.
different choices. Um, and then if you really want a different experience, like especially in travel, you have to go like outside of, you know, the Western world. Like you have to, I remember I went to a friend's wedding in India, and so I had never been there before. But I kind of walked in as a guy who's toured for, you know, I had toured for 15 years at that point. I feel like I was well traveled, you know, seasoned traveler. Like I know all the things you got to know. You know what I mean? Like just follow me, everybody. You'll be fine. And I just I got there and I realized that nothing I had experienced or learned in the 15 years of touring applied to New Delhi, you know, nothing at all, you know, like it was just,
Yeah.
holy crap, this is traveling. Like this is getting out there. This is a
Mm-hmm.
whole different experience. This looks nothing like home. Not 1 second of my days there were anything like home or anything like anything I'd ever done before. And so that to me was like, like it triggered like, oh, I want to go places like this. I want to go. This is probably what traveling used to feel like, a little more off the grid.
You got a bunch of people standing around looking at you, and you're looking at your phone. You're like, there should be a red roof in around here somewhere.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Your whole idea falls apart right off the plate.
Totally. Yeah. Like I had toured for a long time, but only in India did I ever make eye contact with a guy taking a shit in the street for a long time.
Hey, man, there's a couple punk shows where that can happen too.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you ever played Burnt Ramen in Richmond?
There were no walls around the shitter in CBGB's either. So
I played a lesbian bar in, I think, El Paso. They had a bathroom with a bunch of toilets, but no dividers. So like if you were taking a shit and someone else was taking a shit, like it was all just out in the open.
that's exciting.
Did you ever do any touring? Speaking about getting out there and doing different experiences, did you ever do any touring where your band after the end of the show would be like, "Hey, do we have any places where we can crash?" And you just end up staying with someone from the show?
Yeah, all the time. In our first 5 years or so, yeah, we definitely stayed at people's houses that we had just met, right there at the show for sure.
We did a couple U.S. tours where that was all we did, right? Our band was not very popular. And it was both the most rewarding and most weird experiences because I realized that, you could go to a hotel and just relax and stay inside your bubble. But I ended up going and staying with people all across the country and talking to them about what they were going through and hearing from them. And it's just really unique experience to be like, yeah, I stayed with a family in Louisiana. I stayed with a family in Detroit and all these different places. I just talked to them and learned about what's going on around them. Thinking about staying at spots after shows, any particular memories stand out? Any weird spots or things happening at the spots?
I remember sleeping on the top of a pool table in Columbia, Missouri once. Now that you mention it, like I have like these like images in my head of like being in somebody's kitchen, like making breakfast, you know what I mean? But like I have no idea who that
Yeah.
person is anymore, you know what I mean? Or like where I was, but you're right, like when
It
you
wasn't even the right kitchen. You guys got the wrong address. You were at the neighbor's place.
that's true too. I do remember staying at a house in Fort Collins, Colorado. We'd played the show with a band. They were called 2 Minute Hate, I think. And we stayed at their house afterwards. We just met them that night. And they were a bunch of skaters and they had a party and we slept on their floor. I had a skateboard with me on tour. And I woke up in the morning, my skateboard was gone. Like it was just like had been
Mm.
taken and somebody had left theirs like in its place, but theirs was really crappy. And I remember
Like you had bone Swiss bearings, and these guys left you with some crappy Lucky bearings. You're like, what the fuck? That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I was infuriated. I remember telling the people or the kids from the punk house, I was like, all right, I gotta get in the van, I gotta go. My skateboard's gone. But if you see anybody, rolling around with this, know that it's not theirs, and you guys should take it and like keep it. I'll never see you guys again, but like, that's not his deck, so take it. And God, it was like 2 years later, because I was playing bass in a band called The Honor System at the time. And like 2 years later, I saw the guys in The Honor System and at a show, and they saw me and they were in their van. And they're like, dude, wait, don't go anywhere. And I was like, what? And they reached way into the back of their van, just under all this garbage, and they pull out my skateboard from like 2 years ago. And they're like, dude,
Wow.
And the guy's head.
beheading is the punishment for stealing a skateboard. I think that is it's in the book. Yeah. And like the kids found the skateboard, took it from the guy, and then next time the band rolled through, like
Damn.
that to me was like late 90s punk. It was like through like the Pony Express of bands touring, like the skateboard event. Like nowadays you would find a skateboard, you'd like, FedEx it back to the person or whatever and just figure it out, Now it's like, okay, we found the skateboard. Now we have to wait until that band comes back here and plays a show. And when they do, we'll give them the skateboard. And then they have to wait. And if they ever see Tim at a show, they must keep it in their van just in case. I love that.
And you know that they had like a punk house meeting, and there was one guy who's really impassioned, like, "This is not what the Ohio scene's about, man. We got to get this skateboard back."
The doctrine, right?
I think you just told us a story of the most successful time punks have ever worked together to complete something. That story of multiple groups of people working together, and there also included a vicious beatdown, which I think you glossed over a bit, but I I would assume the guy who stole the skateboard did not get out of this story unscuffed. That's pretty incredible.
That reminds me, there was a time when I was living up in San Francisco. I went to Gilman one night, and my friend, who was my roommate, we got off at the Berkeley BART station, and we skateboarded over to Gilman, which is like a mile or two. And then we were leaving. We're last train out of town is leaving soon, so I can't find my friend. He turns out he got drunk at Gilman, which is illegal according to Gilman rules. So he got
according to
bounced
punk
out.
law.
Yeah. So I ended up talking to him. He said he passed out in a bush down the street, and eventually he found his way home. But as I was hustling back to the BART station, I see somebody on my friend's skateboard. They had taken it from Gilman, and I rushed up to this guy like, "You're about to catch a beating, man, for stealing my friend's board." But he was so kind. He's like, "I was in such a rush and I needed to get back here. I am so sorry. Here's your friend's skateboard. Please tell him that I apologize. This was an emergency thing." I was like, all right.
Bill, you bought that story like a sucker. Come on.
Yeah, hey, he was very nice. We talked the entire ride back to San Francisco, but man, I had fire in my eyes, ready to go after this guy. But it turns out, he just needed a quick lift. And my friend was also just irresponsible and passed out in a bush at that time, so I wasn't exactly pleased with him.
So it seems like what we should do here is, do either of you have any items that you've lost that you want the punk scene to return to? We got to put out a siren call here to, any sunglasses that you need the kids in Arizona to find and return to.
I had a cordless Milwaukee drill stolen from me while I was doing some work for a buddy. So if anybody has seen my cordless
That's never
Milwaukee
coming back,
drill,
man.
I know it's gone.
They sell those ones on the street real quick.
Yeah.
Equipment like that goes real quick.
18-volt battery. This thing was slick as hell, and it was just fucking gone.
It's a goner. It's a goner.
Kills me.
That reminds me, I was on tour, and I'm married with 2 kids, and they were young at the time. And one of them had one of those just like push scooters. You just hold on to the handlebars and you just push it along. And she'd gone to the library, and my wife went to get her. And someone had taken the scooter, right? Just it's a scooter. You can't really lock it up very well. So, and she called me. She's like, someone took the scooter. And I was like, all right, listen, I was a kid. I took dumb stuff when I was young too. I bet the kid that took the scooter is probably not even a kid. He's a teenager, and he's just riding it. He's joyriding it right now. He's joyriding it a few blocks away to the park, and he's ditching it. That's probably what's happening. And I bet if you drive down to the park 2 blocks away, I bet the kid's there. And she's like, all right. And then she hung up. And she then goes and drives over to the park, and she sees an adult man talking to another adult man. And one of them is on my 8-year-old scooter, right? And so she gets out of the car and she charges these adult men and rips the scooter out from under them and just starts, "This is a child's scooter that you stole." And then, rushes off and then gets in the car and calls me. And I was like, whoa, I wasn't serious about going and taking this thing back from 2 adult men. That could have gone very, very wrong. And it certainly was not worth the scooter to go put yourself in that situation. She was breathing heavy, and she was like, yeah, that probably wasn't really smart. But I think I just rushed up on them so intensely that they just froze and got scared and just kind of gave it up. And then before they could think,
pure energy. It's a blitzkrieg.
It was totally a blitzkrieg. I think that by the time they caught up what was going on and starting to figure out, wait, we could take her. It was too late. She was already back in the car and gone. I was like, oh, that wasn't what I intended, but I guess it worked out.
I like that on the first call, what she heard from you was you were pure vigilante justice. Right. You get out there, you patrol the streets, you find this scooter, and you return it to our home.
Right. No cops.
Yeah, when in reality, the call is it's probably...
Yeah.
In reality, your phone call was it's sitting under a tree next to the park, and the kid went and got a frickin' a sundae from the local ice cream shop.
Right.
It's just sitting there, but yeah, she took it as, all right, well, I've got my mad ball in hand, and I am ready to go knock these guys out.
Tim, is this album coming up? Is this number 10?
It will be number 9, though we put out like a B-sides and like an acoustic record, so one could be forgiven if they were just counting all the things we released. But at full length, number 9.
Okay. Tell me about it. Tell me about the process, all the different stuff about it.
Yeah, so this one's called Nowhere Generation. It's 11 songs that we wrote and produced by The Blasting Room, Bill Stevenson, Jason Livermore, Chris Biebel, Andrew Berlin. The Blasting Room is a studio that we've gone to, for 6 of our 9 albums now. And so most of what you hear Rise Against 2 will have come out of that studio. So this was kind of like we didn't work with them with the last record, so this was kind of like a coming home thing for us.
Bill Stevenson from
Yeah, so Bill Stevenson, drummer of Black Flag, drummer of The Descendants as well. And then kind of like, I'm sure that your listeners probably are familiar with Bill, but like he's like Descendants also, like he's a songwriter, you know what I mean? He really is like his baby. They've produced all those records themselves. So he's been a producer of lots of big punk records and lots of big records all over since like the late 90s ish. So he wears many hats. And for us he's just like kind of like the Rise Against whisperer. He's like our mentor, like our guru, and he kind of has always understood our band in a way that not everybody does. And so we're always like so grateful to work with him and his team.
When you guys are discussing various things in the studio, does he ever just slam his hand down on the desk and say, "I was in Black Flag, motherfucker. You do as I say"?
So it's funny you say that because that's like so the opposite of who Bill is. Like Bill is almost like unaware of his own like pedigree. You know what I mean? Like he's so humble about what
Yeah.
he has done, and to him it's all about like, what did you do today? You know what I mean? Like what did you do? Like what have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? And so he's always like never resting on his laurels. But like every once in a while, like we'll be like, in the studio and just fucking around and telling a story about like we're all telling stories about tour or whatever else. And then he'll be like, "Oh, that reminds me, me and Henry and Chuck were getting beat up by skinheads in Long Beach in '84." And then we realized like, oh right, your stories are way better than our stories.
Your stories are these stories. It's like the stories of our genre here.
Exactly. And then you're like, oh right, like okay, I give up. You just pulled the trump card. You have way too many good stories. Like you were right there in the eye of the hurricane.
I guess I'll just get back in the booth then.
Yeah. I'll shut up now about my 19 or 99 tour with the Mad Caddies right now, and we'll just kind of move on,
You tour quite a bit with Bad Religion, right? So you toured with some of the dudes from Minor Threat. That's pretty cool too. I mean, Minor Threat was one of the bands for me that, when my older brother played me Minor Threat, that was when I was like, oh, okay, like this is really what I'm into. Because I listened to ska and I listened to some like 90s punk before, and I was really into it. But when I heard Minor Threat, I was like, this is what I am. I am a kid from the 80s in Washington, D.C.
I can totally relate to that. That was me too. You know what I mean? I think of like punk as like, say, like a sport, right? Like say like baseball, right? So baseball is one giant umbrella.
The most unathletic sport ever.
Right. Oh, we can go down that rabbit hole too. But like people, you might be into baseball, but really you're into like a team, right? You know what I mean? So like punk's teams are like Sex Pistols and Clash and the New York Dolls, or maybe it's Fugazi, or maybe it's Black Flag, or maybe it's the MC5 or the Ramones, you know what I mean? Op Ivy, like the Mount Rushmore of bands, you know what I mean? And you might love all those bands, but you love one more, you know what I mean? You like, part of you found like Like if the Clash were the most important thing in your life, you know what I mean? I can see the trajectory you would go down, or if the Sex Pistols were. But if the Bad Brains were way more important to you than the Sex Pistols, then that's a different trajectory you might go down, you know? And if like the New York Dolls didn't do anything for you at all, you know what I mean? Then that's like something that's part of like the umbrella, but it wasn't your thing that you identify with. And so I'm like you, Matt. Minor Threat was my team. You know what I mean? Like that was the team that I followed, that like I was showing up to. Yeah, like that was the thing that like that's when the light bulb went off for me. It was like, oh, like I get and I like all this stuff. I like everything. Like I love Sex Pistols. I love Ramones. I love all this stuff. But Minor Threat was like, but this is my team. You know, this is what really I identify with. And if I am to create music, it will be to create something that makes people feel the same way Minor Threat made me feel.
Yeah, that opening guitar riff on Filler like has a visceral reaction in my 12 like from being 12 years old and hearing that for the first time and being like, life is different from this point forward. There's nothing is gonna be the same. These 26 songs are all that fucking matter. God damn it.
Yep, that's so true for me too. And like, you know, like any Minor Threat fan, like you can't listen to that album on shuffle. Like you got to almost listen to it straight because you got to know the next song coming up. You know what I mean? I can picture listening to it in a friend's car when I was like probably 13 or 14. And when it came, when the song In My Eyes came on, it came to the part where Ian's just like, did you fucking get it? Like I remember my friend's dad just hitting eject on the cassette and just tossing the thing to the back of the van. Just launching it. And it was like, yeah, like that's what punk should do. Like that's what hardcore should do. It should piss off your dad, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he didn't fucking
That's
get
exactly right.
He didn't fucking get it.
I guess he's like, busy smoking, drinking, fucking playing golf or whatever.
Yeah. He's got all his excuses. He likes the taste, you know.
Yeah.
There you go. Could go down the list. Yeah, but we toured with Bad Religion all those times. They took us out when we were young. I remember with them taking us out too. It was like our band was getting bigger, and as a band gets bigger, you have to like do things to accommodate the bigger places you're playing. Like you got to hire some more crew to help you out. You need better equipment. Just all the things that come along with it. But we were still like a punk rock band, and so we're trying to like keep it all in the van and keep it all like in the van and trailer. And I remember like we just thought like we can't go to a bus. Like once you go to a bus, like that's not cool anymore. And this was getting
Just
ridiculous.
Immediately, an English manager in a suit pops up as soon as you get the bus, and he's just like, "We need to work on your image."
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's Jimmy Fallon, Almost Famous, like coming out and just like telling us, you know. And so we were so in denial about the size of our band and how, as it was like snowballing. So when I think of that tour, I think of I'll tell you this, it was our last van tour, but we had this van with like 8, maybe 9 people in it. And we'd been breaking trailers. Like we'd been putting so much equipment in trailers, it was too much weight for them. And like the whole axles were breaking. And so we had like this like custom made trailer made that was larger than our 18 passenger van. Like you could almost fit like the van inside the trailer. And clearly we had no like adults in the room telling us like, you guys, what you're doing is crazy. You know, just get a bus. It's like $400 a day. We can make this work, you know? And instead I remember just rolling this trailer around North America with just packed in the van. And we were starting to get radio plays. So it meant we had to like show up to radio stations sometimes at like 8:30 in the morning for like their, you know, traffic hour broadcast. And I'm playing an acoustic guitar and just coughing out a voice because I'd already played the night before, you know? And so I remember that tour being like our last band tour because we realized this is getting ridiculous. Nobody's comfortable and like we can't even keep up with the rest of the tour. But yeah, we definitely punished guys like Brian Baker for like Minor Threat stories and like all that stuff. And he took us to the Discord house where we met Ian on that tour, which was really, I mean, to this day, kind of like the coolest thing that's ever happened in my life, period. You know, and I've had 2 kids, so it's like pretty awesome to like meet like my hero, you know, and like see like the house that it all kind of happened. Like I stood in the basement where like Minor Threat was created, you know, and like
Did you see the skateboard as well?
oh yeah, I saw the skateboard as well. And the interesting thing about that basement is that you can't stand up in it. Like that's how small it is.
Mm.
It is like a glorified crawl space. And then I was like, holy shit, all of my
Mm.
favorite songs were created like sitting down or like bending over, you know? But that's how tiny it was. But that's like
fucking lame.
it's lame, but it's also like that's how like frugal and militant like, you know, punk and hardcore would have been, you know what I mean? Like we're making this space work, you know. So yeah, all that stuff was really cool. And then as we got bigger, we ended up taking Bad Religion on tour, so we got to, you know, tour with them again with them opening up.
And then I'm sure you just reminded them of that every day. Oh, look who we're taking on tour now, huh? Oh, how the tables have turned, my friends. Start giving them songwriting tips. You know, we can get in there and help you out if you want.
That would have gone over real well. Yeah.
We know Bill Stevenson. I don't know if you know that, but when you had to do some of those radio appearances, was it ever like the morning zoo crew like things? Like, hey, it's on Whip 'em Out Wednesdays. Any lady that flashes our van gets a free CD. Just you know, like, did you have to do like those shows, or were you booked on things that were at least reasonable?
No, they're all those shows. None of them are reasonable. That's what they are. That's when Middle America plays your song. Like you show up to that. So they were always so bummed to see me. You know what I mean? Because it was like, oh, life of the party. Straight edge guys here. You know.
We've got a kiddie pool filled with baby oil.
Yeah, those were some trying.
Oh man.
Those were some trying things to get through sometimes, that's for sure. It was a learning experience, you know. Like I didn't get into punk and hardcore to play acoustic guitar at 8 a.m. during like the traffic report, you know. So it was like, whoa, this is this is different. So we ended up not doing those a lot after a while. So
My band played on the local radio one time, and we just were going really hard, right? Because we're like on the local radio. And someone recorded it for us. I swear to God, it just sounded like white noise. It was like clearly they were not ready to record a band of our style.
Mhm.
And it just sounded like white noise with our singer screaming his head off. It sounded absolutely horrible. So maybe acoustic was the way to go. I'm not so sure.
It's probably a better chance, yeah.
Tim, you've been very generous with your time. So tell people where they can find the new record. Direct them someplace.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can find us on all the socials, find the new record wherever you stream music or buy music. We are going on tour with the Descendants and the Menzingers throughout America, which so far is the only country that will let us in because we're already in. And in the meantime, like, yeah, keep an eye on we have a lot of fun stuff kind of planned out for our fans, to kind of just engage people until we can really get on the road around like the rest of the world, and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, we're pretty excited about this next chapter of Rise Against, and we look forward to seeing everybody out there.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun tour. I'll be there.
Cool.
Tim, come back sometime and hang out again. It was great meeting you, and thank you for making time.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Well, now it's time for commercials so we can pay the bills. Pay the bills. So we can pay the bills.
The Hard Times Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Pirates Press. Pirates Press is the place to go if you need merchandise or records made. I've made records with Pirates Press. I've made merchandise with Pirates Press. I love it. I can't get enough. I've made records at other places. I don't want to name them. United Records. The records came back fucking warped. That's shit. Fuck United Records. Watch Pirates Press have some sort of business relationship. You know what else Pirates Press does? They put out records. What kind of records? Punk records. Punk rock and roll. Street punk. Oi. Check out this band, Bill. Plitzkin. That sounds pretty oi.
Sounds very oi.
It's got a fucking cobra on the cover, and it looks like a picture of some building. And the record's called And Their Paradise is Full of Snakes.
Oh, that's Plitzkin for you.
12-inch.
Wait,
vinyl.
how do you spell that name?
Plizzken. And I'm noticing the Z's are a little bit larger font size. And I'm thinking maybe a skinhead oi band probably shouldn't go with the double Z look,
Okay,
like
so
a little bit like you reverse it to the SS, you know what I mean?
the the protagonist of the Escape from New York and Escape from LA movies is named Snake Plissken.
Oh, that must be what. Yeah, okay. Maybe this is a building from New York, and the paradise is full of snakes. Okay, this is a Escape from New York based band. Um, but there's some fucking tough looking dudes on this cover, so I'm gonna take back everything I said that was considered negative. These are some rowdy looking tough boys. And I bow to their level of violence and strength. Okay, so Blitzkid and their Paradise is Full of Snakes. The release date is July 2nd. Good news, Bill. That's in the past. This record is out, baby. This is Pirates Press record number 295. Go to piratespressrecords.com and go pick it up. You can also follow Plitzkin Punk Rock on facebook.com/Plitzkin Punk Rock. Still pumping up that Facebook page. Might have to tell the boys in Plitzkin.
Hey, no, do not give them notes. Everybody.
The boys in Plitzkin should get on TikTok. That could be a hard time story, me explaining TikTok to skinheads. All right, as they just start wailing on me.
You can lip sync to things.
All right, Plitzkin, Pirates Press, go make a record. Go buy a record. Go get some merch. Go make some merch. It's all good, baby.
The Hard Times Podcast is brought to you by our friends over at rockabilia.com, which, as you know, is home of over 500,000 pieces of officially licensed merchandise. Today on the podcast, we have Tim Mickelrath of Rise Against. Now, when you type in Rise Against into the Rockabilia search bar, it doesn't bring up Rise Against right away. There is Rise Against merch if you scroll around. You kind of have to look for it, though. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 Rise Against shirts, but the main hit is a Nirvana striped sweater slim fit t-shirt and a Guns N' Roses shirt. Also, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a Burzum shirt. It's problematic to wear Burzum shirts these days. Don't buy a Burzum shirt. But what you should buy is the Spaz shirt, the Dwarf Jester Rising. If you are a Spaz fan, you are a friend of mine. Spaz is the greatest power violence band of all time. But enough about Spaz. Go to rockabilia.com. You can get Rise Against merch over there. It's officially licensed, like I said. So go to rockabilia.com. Put in the promo code PC Hard Times and you save 10%. Oh, and look at that. I keep scrolling and there's another Spaz shirt. Plenty of Spaz shirts over at rockabilia.com. If you are listening to this podcast, then you need to know about shop.thehardtimes.net. That is our official merch store, and new vinyl is being added daily. I am saying daily. We are adding new vinyl. Just today, over at shop.thehardtimes.net, we added some titles that I know you are going to like, such as we have added the Turnstile Glow On LP that just came. It's a pre-order right now. So if you like Turnstile, then you need to get that. A Glassjaw 20th anniversary vinyl collection that you have to pick up at their shows. Sure, it's a little inconvenient, but it's there. What else have we added? Man, hold on a second. Updated, created. This is, now we're talking. I hit the wrong button. The first Minus the Bear LP and Highly Refined Pirates. So they got Minos El Oso, their first LP, and Highly Refined Pirates in the merch store. Tiger's Jaw Charmer on clear pink. Yes, please. Modern Baseball. Okay. And a bunch of Bikini Kill. There's so much being added. Oh, some Postal Service records. If you like that one Postal Service song, got you covered. How about the most underrated band of all time, Majority Rule? We just added both of their albums to the store. Shop.thehardtimes.net. Go there right now. Pick up some vinyl, pick up some shirts. Shop.thehardtimes.net. It helps us out, keeps the lights on, and you get some stuff. All right. That was Tim Mickelrath of Rise Against. And if you are looking to get the new Rise Against album, Nowhere Generation, you can go to shop.thehardtimes.net. We have a picture disc in stock right now, and we have it on the limited edition flame colored LP. Now, Matt, you are huge into flame colored LPs, so that's going to look great on your wall next to all your flame posters and stuff like that, like a bunch of your Ford
Flame decals.
Oh, dude, your Tesla is loaded with flame decals.
My Tesla. Start every sentence like that. Let me tell you about my Tesla.
As a Tesla
my
owner.
Tesla is a Tesla, and I go to Tesla meetings. I paid off my Tesla.
Oh, wow, that was quick, huh?
Yeah, I'm trying to do this thing where people on this podcast may or may not know, probably do, that I am a delinquent debtor because Wells Fargo fucked me over $6, and so it is. Whenever I go to get a loan for anything, people say, well, I can't trust you. You didn't pay back Wells Fargo one time $6. So I'm trying to reduce my overall debt. So I paid off my Tesla. So if anyone wants to come to my house and bash it in, that's all on me or something. Is it better that I own it now or worse? I don't know.
It's 100% better because the bank isn't an insurance company that's like, oh no, our car got messed up. It's still on you if somebody bashes it in. But now,
used cars are something like crazy, like high prices because of like the COVID's such a weird thing where it's like, oh, used cars, those are gonna have to go up in price.
Yeah.
It's like all these. Yeah, lumber? Pfft, kidding me? 5 times as much. So I don't know. I was talking to my barber about this. Some people are like selling their cars for more than they bought them for. So they bought a new car like 2 years ago. They drove it around and now they're selling it used for more than they bought it for. So maybe I should. If anyone on this podcast wants to buy a Tesla Model 3 2019 for more than I bought it for, hit me up. Dude, it's all yours.
Well, I mean, it's perfectly fair that they're selling it for more than they bought it for. But if you're in the position where you still need a car, wouldn't your new car be more expensive? Like,
Yes.
Yeah. So
I think that's called replacement cost.
Uh-huh.
It's some economic thing I was trying to read about. I think what you do is there are certain chips in some of these cars. So you sell your car with the chip that everyone wants, and then you buy a car that doesn't have the chip or something. Like I go buy a new car that's still in stock. Maybe I don't entirely understand the system, Bill. Maybe I will end up selling my car and having to buy it back for $5,000 more in a month.
Yeah, you're riding a bike up to San Francisco to go to the office or something like that, along what's the highway that goes from San Francisco to Pacifica? Oh shit! All of a sudden, the Thunderdome is. Podcast listeners can't see this, but Matt has apparently figured out video capabilities, and now we're in the Thunderdome, baby.
It's on. We use a system called Riverside. Folks listening to this podcast, riverside.fm, and they have a new thing called Media, and you can upload media files. This one's only uploaded 99%, which is why I don't think it played the audio. But baby, once it gets to 100%, I'm throwing the audio out there on them.
So were you able, I know you did a written piece about Thunderdome and your obsession with the show, and you talked to producers or whatever from the show. Were you able to get to see full episodes of this?
Okay, so Thunderdome. Thunderdome was a show when I was a kid. And it's the type of show it was like a Girls Gone Wild commercial. You stay up and like jerk your little ween to it.
Mm-hmm. Still do.
And so it would come on like after wrestling, and it was wrestling like characters who were driving motorcycles and ATVs in clearly fake staged races with like explosions where people were supposed to be dying and stuff. It was really bad. And then it was like, stay tuned for the women of Thunderdome. And there's just like these blonde women with like gigantic fake boobs in a pool.
Real bikini
total
babes.
90s bikini sort of vibe. And so every 10 years would go by, and I would say, I'd be hanging out with my brothers and I'd say, remember Thunderdome? And we would Google it and it wouldn't come up. Like it was like scrubbed from the history of the earth. Like there's no Wikipedia page, there's no nothing. And like so you could go to old like websites like TV Guide and you just like couldn't find Thunderdome. And so I got a little confused by that, so I decided to like spend time investigating it and wrote some articles about it. And I ended up contacting some of the producers of Thunderdome, like guys who just still had it on their like LinkedIn, like I did the audio for Thunderdome, and I called them up and I talked to them. I was like, what was Thunderdome? And they're like, the Thunderdome was a fucking joke, and they filmed it out in this desert. And But I just kept talking to him, and then eventually I did speak to one of the women of Thunderdome. One of the
Ooh.
women of Thunderdome reached out to me actually recently.
Bro, nice.
A woman of Thunderdome slid into my DMs.
Hell
to be frank.
yeah, dog.
And I think she turned out to be like a right wing person.
Nice, bro.
Okay, there's something. Okay. So this story, you asked me, did I ever get to see Thunderdome? I tracked down the people who own Thunderdome now. And they're like, we have it in a vault, like all the tapes. And I was like, can I go in the vault? And they're like, no, absolutely not. Only employees can go in the vault. I said, do you have any job openings? Like, can I become an employee? They said no. I'm disappointed, right? I get their address and I'm thinking about going to LA and like just trying to like talk to them and get in, whatever. Nothing happens. 3 months go by. I end up getting an email from them saying, Matt, good news. Apparently, I'm the only person inquiring about this. Thunderdome is now on, I forget, it's like Pluto TV or something. It's some weird, and it's on at like 11 p.m. Pluto TV, and then you can watch it streaming later. And then they sent me the link, and like it didn't work. And like it wasn't really at that time, and like it wasn't on demand. Like so they told me that they were re-airing Thunderdome, but I was unable to figure it out. So I bet you whichever thing they put it back on is probably going to go under 2, and it will also be lost to time again. But I have an advertisement for Thunderdome. If it ever finishes uploading, Riverside gets the audio. I'll play it for you, and it goes like, too sexy for prime time, too extreme for your family. It's Thunderdome. And then they like do these big like dirt bike jumps and then titties.
Hell yeah.
Good stuff. It's good stuff. I did these articles about it, and that was like a year ago. And just recently, a woman of Thunderdome slid into my DMs and was like, hey, Matt, I heard you really like Thunderdome. Like, I was one of the women of Thunderdome.
And Biden stole the election. I just need you to know that.
And I can't find anything about it. She was like, I want to find this old video of me on TV. And I go, oh, that's so funny. Like, no, sorry, I was unable to get it. I think it played on the show. And then she's like, yeah, you run a cool website. She's like, it's like a little too liberal or something, though. She was like, the vaccine is fake. I was like, what is this? So I just stopped messaging her. I only messaged her for a couple hours, and I was like, this is fucked.
So this kind of reminds me. So going back and watching old television shows. So I'm a subscriber to Paramount Plus, and that has a lot of old MTV and Nickelodeon shows from my youth. So I went back and I wanted to watch. While I was eating lunch, I watched an episode of Legends of the Hidden Temple and an episode of Guts, and I couldn't believe. So Legends of the Hidden Temple, when I was a kid, seemed like the coolest fucking thing. Like, I want to run that obstacle course, like, so bad. I want to be a jade monkey and run that goddamn obstacle course.
Are they bringing it back?
I think there's something about that. But rewatching children try to perform athletic tasks as an adult is mind-numbingly bad. Like, these kids can't do shit. They were just trying to like boogie board across a pool, and they kept falling out of the tube, and like you could tell the host is like, oh, he's out again, and all right, so we just need 2 more contestants to go. Oh, fell out again. And it's like, oh my god, these kids fucking suck.
Get out of the way, kid. Here I go. It's a course designed for children. You're like, I'm fucking ace this thing.
I could smoke these kids. And I was watching an episode of Guts, and they were doing a bungee basketball like slam dunk thing, and these kids could not get the ball in the hoop. Like, who the fuck? Like, if I was a father of one of these children, I would have left him in Orlando and just been like, you're not coming home. You scored 0 points in the bungee basketball. You're an embarrassment to the family. You can stay in Florida. Fuck this.
Did you ever watch American Gladiator?
Oh, hell yeah. I was just actually talking about Gemini in Malibu this morning.
The obstacle course, or the competition they had, where it was like these 2 things that you had to hold onto the side of, and then they spread you apart, and then they slammed it back down together. Do you remember that one?
I don't think I remember that one.
It was pretty bizarre. So it looked like pretty much like what are those things that you use like when you're barbecuing and you're grabbing the tongs?
Yeah.
They kind of looked like tongs, but giant mechanical tongs that were like, 30 feet long or something like that. And the American gladiators would have to grab onto the end of them, and then the tongue would spread open all the way, and then it would slam back down.
I do not remember that one at all. I mean, so the ones I remember are obviously the jousting on top of the two poles.
Classic.
There's the one where you had to run around and shoot like tennis balls up at a target while the other person was at a thing shooting tennis balls at you.
Right.
The big round spheres that you had to roll into the ditches.
What about MXC? Do you remember that one? Most
that-
Extreme Elimination Challenge?
That's the Japanese show that was dubbed, right?
Yeah, so fucking funny.
I that one was like just after my time of being interested in
You like had a
anything
job and
television.
stuff.
Yeah. I remember like people telling me that it was super funny, but I never watched that one.
It's a brilliant idea. It's just like a bizarre Japanese game show, and they just like tell jokes over it. They just like rewrite the storylines and just like dub it, and it's really funny. Super inappropriate. I like went back to watch some. There's like some Twitch channels that's just like stream MXC 24/7, which is tight, by the way. It's a tight thing to set up. But like some of the jokes are like, there's like two teams, right? And I'm sure in Japan it was like teachers versus like their students, and they would just be like, gay firemen versus, pedophile veterinarians. And yeah, so there was like a lot of stuff where I was like, okay, yeah, that was the sort of comedy that was rotting my mind for sure.
I'm looking at a list of all the American Gladiator events. Now I'm just gonna read them off real quick and tell me if any of them sound like the one, because this is the Wikipedia page, that might be it. So Assault, Atmosphere, Breakthrough and Conquer, Earthquake.
Well, I'm not gonna remember my fucking name, Bill.
All right, wait. There's one called Snapback.
Okay, American.
Bungee cords. No, so that's not it. Swing Shot.
Was there an American Gladiator ripoff show?
There was a newer American Gladiators that Hulk Hogan was the host of, and then Gina Carano was one of the gladiators before she was like an MMA star.
I mean, if Hulk Hogan was hosting it, they were probably pitching it to me as a WCW kid, so I bet you I watched that one as well.
But that one was up pretty recently, though.
Okay, well then, no. I mean, I was a kid. I mean, I remember this very distinctly. There was some sort of competition where it looked like it was like a long structure with a padded circular thing on the bottom of it that was not easy to hold on to, and they had to hold on to it, and then it lifted them up and it slammed them into another one that looked the same, and the obstacle was not to fall off when you got slammed. Where do I find all the American Gladiator obstacle?
AmericanGladiators.fandom.com/wiki/events. It has pictures of everything. I'm trying to look at the ones that might, like Whiplash, Hang Tough is a possibility.
We got to be careful with this, Bill, because if I can't find it, but it did happen, I'm going to go end up writing 5 more articles about it and talking to producers and stuff. And they're like, yeah, we cut that one.
You're going to have a right-wing gladiator messaging you being like, vaccines can't be developed that quick. And I don't know what mRNA is, but...
What ends up happening is... So this is probably not the situation here, but what I found out when I looked into Thunderdome is that today everything is kind of recorded. Like, you go to the park and there's someone recording everything. There's security cameras, all this sort of stuff. And our TVs are smart TVs. And so like you just say what shows you want to watch and then they're on demand. But even if you didn't do that, Amazon will have them or YouTube will have them and they'll sell them to you for 99 cents if you want to watch that episode, And there's actually, before this sort of era, there's a lot of TV that's called like lost TV that was recorded, put on a tape, put into a broadcast situation where they play the tape, right, to broadcast to all these TVs. Then no one recorded it. And then they took that same tape in the studio and lost it in a fire, destroyed it, or even reused the tape